Hi guys, welcome back to IbomStudio. In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you the A to Z of UV unwrapping in Blender. And at the end of this tutorial, you're going to be able to up your UV games in Blender. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. UV unwrapping is a process where a 3D model is flattened and converted to a 2D surface, which can then be mapped onto any 2D picture or texture. To get started with UV unwrapping, you need to be in the shader editor. Alright, so you can get to it here. Okay, press N for this to do that. Okay, let me turn on my screencast key so you see whatever I'm pressing, and also open the UV editor to see how the texture is being projected. Alright, so this is where you're going to see the 2D image of whatever will be projected onto your 3D model. So adding just an image texture to your object or cube makes Blender use some default UV unwrapping to project the surface area of this 3D object to the 2D texture we are using. Alright, so for instance, we want to add a texture to this cube. Alright, we can come over here and click on add material. We can as well open our folder and then bring in this material. Okay, then connect this to the color, and this is what we have. It's been mapped this way because Blender at default has already unwrapped this cube. So to see the unwrap information of this cube, you have to be in edit mode. To be in edit mode, click on tab. Alright, then go over to the UV editor and scroll out of it. You are going to see that Blender has already UV unwrapped this cube to fit the 2D texture that is being projected on it. So we can also make some alignments over here. Like if we click on A selects all the faces. Here, if you click on A, select all the faces, and if you click on G, look at the viewport, you are going to see some changes and some movements of the textures along the 3D object. Okay, so at default, Blender has already unwrapped this cube. Let's take a look at how this texture is going to be unwrapped on other primitive objects. So let's shift select all of this and select the cube last and click on Ctrl L and click on link materials. Alright, so this is just going to be used for illustrations. Alright, so let's be at the top view. First, let's go to the shader editor. Look at this part here. This is the method the 2D image is being projected on our 3D model. So this is the flat method. This flat method is the one that is always closer to being correct for flat surfaces. So this is just like having a plane on top your 3D surface, then slapped onto the 3D surface from top. Alright, let me explain it over here. So now you see this. Let's start with the cube. From top on the cube now, you see this texture is actually looking like it's nicely aligned, and although it is nicely aligned, alright, from the top, but if we change this perspective from top to this side, you are going to see how stretchy it gets. Why is it nice from the top? Because just imagine the image texture being flat, just as this plane, then traced onto the surface of this cone. So it can only look nice from the top view, but when it is being torn, you see the stretching all over. Alright, at the bottom, it looks nice already at the bottom because the bottom surface is already flat. This particular aspect only works better for flat surfaces. Okay, like you can see at the curvature of this circle, texture starts stretching. Alright, but somewhere here that is closer to being flat, because that particular area is flat over here, somewhere closer to being flat and like being squared, this part, it looks like it's starting to be okay at this point. Alright, why? Because this is closer to being flat, but over here where the curvature really occurs, it makes it stretch. Okay, so the same thing here from top. This cylinder from top is okay, it's fine even when we leave the top view, because the part where the texture is being projected upon is flat. But coming down here, this cylinder has a lot of curvature, so that's why you are going to have these stretchy textures, and under is going to be fine, just like the top. Alright, so here the torus is a no-go area because all the parts of the torus are all curvy and stretching. Okay, so now another type of UV projection is the box projection. So when we change that to the box projection, you are going to see how this affects the 3D models. Alright, so the box position also works better on flat surface and really bad on curved surfaces. Believe me, you always want to be on the flat surface. Okay, so the sphere projection looks like just shooting the textures out of a sphere. Okay, and it spreads around. So you see this part, you're going to understand it from seeing this. So like it spreads from here, like it starts from here and then originates and wraps around the 3D surface. So the same thing over here at this point. That's the same thing over here. Start from here, then wraps around basically the flat projection is actually what gives a better result than the rest of it. Okay, but most of our 3D models are not always going to be flat. We need to know a way to unwrap our 3D model in order to get a better projection. Alright, and that takes us to seams. The way we can unwrap our 3D model is by being in the edit mode. For instance, let's start with the torus. To unwrap our 3D model, to map well around this torus, we have to be in the edit mode. And in the edit mode, you are going to see how the torus has been originally been unwrapped by Blender, which is not basically what we want. Okay, so to unwrap any material, we have to be in edge select mode. So to unwrap any material, if you click on A to select all the parts of it, UV in the edit mode, and click on U, we have this UV mapping menu. We have the first, the unwrap, we have the smart UV project, we have the light path. All these are the unwrap options. Okay, but what we are going to use is unwrap and smart UV project. So if you want Blender to do the work for you automatically and unwrap this to best fit the texture that you are trying to project upon the 3D model, you click on smart UV on, and this H limit is how many pieces you want Blender to cut this particular 3D model. The island margin, basically keep it at 0, the area weight also at 0, but in case you are packing your islands, you are going to play with these values a little. Okay, so let's just click on it. So clicking on OK now makes Blender automatically cuts down your models into this, and if you go out of edit mode and look at it, you are going to see that the textures are being projected a little better than before onto this model. But basically, we are seeing a lot of seams over here. Seams are the hash line that transitions from one part of your 2D texture to the next, thereby showing any viewer where a cut was placed on the UV. Okay, so we don't want all this. It is a better practice to hide your UV seams. So how do we do that? We do that by unwrapping it ourselves. So what to do if you want to unwrap this by hiding and also hiding this, you need to click on this edge, to select this ring over here and click on U, then select mark seam, and it's going to be marked with this red ink. Alright, so if you are going to be viewing the model from this aspect, then we need to also cut another seam at the back. Click on U and click on mark seam, then select everything. After cutting a seam, click on U and then click on unwrap. So after doing this, you now see that this is aligned better. There is no seam in front. Like the seam is basically hidden except this one, except the one at the back where we actually cut the seam. Okay, which is around here, except the one over here, which you can easily pass without noticing. So what to do now, if you want to make these textures smaller, what you need to do, after going to edit mode, go to the UV's editor mode, click on A to select everything, then scale and move it while looking at your model to see how they are being projected. So you now have a very nice unwrap over here. Alright, so if you go to edit mode in your UV editor, you have the freedom to move, you have the freedom to rotate. Okay, just like you do in your viewport, you can move and lock it to the x-axis. Alright, you can also move and lock it to the y-axis. Easy, you can rotate it anyhow you want. Alright, so you get the part of the texture that you really need. Okay, so now if you want to work on this, alright, what you should do is to mark seam at where it's not going to be actually visible. So let's mark a seam here at this bottom here. Click on U, mark seam. Alright, then select one part, let's say the back part, then click on U and mark a seam. Alright, then click on A, U, unwrap. Alright, and you already have this. Alright, so the seam is already at the back, so most times you have to hide your seam at the back or at a very tight corner where people will actually notice. Alright, so let's say we are all looking at it from the front view. This is nicely unwrapped, so the cube is already unwrapped as it is. But if we reset the unwrapping of this cube, let's say reset it, this is how it's going to be. All the 2D textures are going to be directly slapped onto the faces of this cube. Alright, so if you want to unwrap it to our own liking, if you go to the edit mode, this is what you are going to. So what Blender has actually done here, Blender has cut out each face of this cube and slapped it on the 2D texture over here. But we want to unwrap it to make it look nice. So what do? We go to the H select mode by pressing 2 on in edit mode. Click on this and click on this. Click U to maxim. Alright. So what this is doing is, why these changes is occurring is because we have enable the automatic unwrap. Alright, so to look at that, we need to come here, live unwrap. The live unwrap is being checked. Whenever you mark your seam, it's going to unwrap automatically according to the seams you've marked. Okay, so now if you want to disclose it, you can just leave it like this, then keep doing that thing. You need to mark the seam at where you feel it's going to have a flat plane, like cutting it with a scissors. Alright, so let's click on this and this and unwrap. We need one more part to unwrap this. Let's check this out. Yeah, okay, so now we have this unwrapped. Okay, you can click on this, rotate it 90 degrees, move this up in the y-axis, and then we get back to this particular point that we had before. Okay, so we can also unwrap a curved surface like this, which is a circle, and avoid the stretching by coming to the back over here and click on U maxing, and it starts unwrapping it. Okay, you now see this part is very stretched. I'm sure this part is this over here on the UV unwrap. Then this part that has tiny mappings, this part that has tiny mappings are the parts closer to each other here. Okay, to actually work on that, we can also add another one over here and mark the seam to make it be like this. Alright, so that's basically it. So to unwrap this is to actually make a cut here, and go to the back, make one more cut. Alright, so all the faces are going to be equal. Okay, you can click on this, you can click on the face select here and move this over here and move this over here. Alright, you can select any parts and move it to your liking, maybe scale it up or scale it down, stuff like that. Alright, it's actually an easy task to unwrap just one particular 2D texture onto your 3D model. Okay, and this texture doesn't actually have parts that you want each faces of your 3D model to be filled up in. Unlike the die texture, let's just make use of this. Let's isolate this view. All we want to do here is make a die with this. Okay, so now this texture is a all-in-one texture, so we want to unwrap each face of this mesh to match with each box to clearly reveal this and make a 3D model look like a die. So what do? We go to the edit mode, be in face select mode, and then click on one face, which is this, and then click on U to unwrap, because if you don't click on U and then we start moving this, we are going to click and rescale this, trying to make this look like what we want it to be. Just click on U and click on unwrap, then we scale it down by ourselves and then move it along the x-axis to be placed at where we have the one. Perfect. So what do again? We just do that repeatedly for the next face. You unwrap, scale it down and move it to this part, then do the same thing again, scale it down, and move it. Alright, then go to the back, U and unwrap, scale it down, come over here, do the same thing. I'm going to speed this up. Alright, so that's that. We automatically have a cube, a die. Okay, to make it more real, you can already apply a bevel. Alright, so this is it. So using a all-in-one texture to map each face to the desired part, the cosmetic label that you have to apply each different faces of your 3D model to it. You can use the same approach and it's still going to work. Alright. The next one is creating multiple UV maps and how to use them. But for a little demonstration, let's create a wall, scale this along x-axis and move this along y. Alright, let's just create a wall, okay, and apply the scale there. Alright, this is actually okay. Let's add loop cuts to this. Let me make it 3. Okay, this is a wall that we want to have paintings all through. Okay, different paintings, and these different paintings are going to have different textures. Alright, so now let's say let's come over here and add this a material to it, wall paint. Let's move the UV editor down, then give more space to this. Alright, so we are going to have a painting here, have another painting here. All these are going to be inside one shader editor, okay, but with multiple image textures. And to drive these different textures onto the same model, we are going to make use of different UV maps. Alright, I'm going to show you how to create the UV maps and how to use them effectively. Okay, so at this point I already have images here that we can use. I have this texture 1, the image of Mox here, texture 2, I have the future lapse image here. A little adjustment is okay. Alright, so what we are going to do here is, let's start with the first one. Let's start with the first one over here. Alright, yeah, at default Blender is going to try as much as possible to stretch this 2D texture around the selected 3D model, because it originally feels that you want to wrap that particular texture around your whole model. So this is where you have to UV unwrap. Alright, this is exactly the point. You have to UV unwrap and tell Blender where exactly you want this particular image texture to be shown. So now, coming to this object data property, after clicking on your 3D model, come to this object data property and click on it. Now you see this map. This is the UV map, where whatsoever you unwrap, the information is going to be stored here on the UV map. Alright, and this is the UV map that is active. That is why this camera is active here. Okay, so if I click on this point and add the next one, let's say the next image texture, let's say image 2. If I click on this and turn this on, if I unwrap anything here, the information is going to be stored in this image 2. So let's go back to make this one active, and let me rename it to image 1. Alright, let me turn this particular one on. I actually want to unwrap this particular face. I want this particular face to have this Future Labs logo on it. Alright, because originally this is how this is how Blender has unwrapped this particular wall for us, which is not how we want it. Okay, so this is what we need to do. Click on this face, click on U, click on unwrap. Okay, so this Blender has unwrapped this particular face for us. Alright, let's rotate it first. Let's rotate it at 90 degrees to have this Future Labs over here. Okay, and let's move it along x-axis to move it to this. Okay, so now we have Future Labs here, but how can we get rid of this stretched part over here? What we need to do is, over here we need to select all other parts that we don't want this Future Labs to stay on and unwrap it. So we are not going to do this one by one. With this part selected, we need to click on Ctrl I to select all other parts, and you can see it's being selected on the UV editor too. So click on U and click on unwrap. It has unwrapped it, okay, but you don't want it showing on other parts of the mesh. Alright, but let me just keep it this way because I have what to explain to you using these other parts that I just unwrapped. So let me just keep it this way and then move to the next one. So now I want this particular one, the future belongs to those who believe in it. I want this particular image texture to show up somewhere here. Okay, I want it to show up somewhere here. Why it is showing up here is because this is the part that is active. Alright, this is the UV map that is active, and whatsoever I work on here is going to affect this UV map, except I give this image texture another UV information. Alright, so at default, Blender makes use of the first UV map to store any unwrapped information. So to give this second image texture another UV map, what we need to do is come down here, enable this face, alright, then come over here and search on UV, enable this map, change the name to the second UV map, and then direct the information to this third part. Alright, so if you click on this, you're actually going to see this particular texture being wrapped around the wall. Okay, what we need to do is to come here, change the image to this particular one, then click on U. After selecting the face here, the face that we want to have this particular image, click on U, unwrap, then rotate this in 90 degrees, the selected face, and move it along the x-axis to cover the image. To take away this particular part away, you need to click on Ctrl I, then unwrap, click on Ctrl I, click on U, unwrap, then move this outside. You see what it is doing? So what you need to do at this moment is scale this at 0.01, very minor, very small. So you see, if you keep it on any part, it's going to have that color. So you want to take it away from that UV image completely. Keep it at where there is white. Okay, so now let's get back to this. Let's get back to this. This is what it was showing us. So to connect two of them together, so we have the feature labs showing here, and we also have this other poster showing here. What we need to do is we need to add a mix RGB node. You connect the first one to the color one, and you connect the second one to color 2, and then this is what we are going to have. You need to get the color information from this particular one and use it to drive the factor here. Alright, so that it will automatically give this one its 100% opacity. So if you plug this into this aspect, we are going to have this. So we are actually going to bring in a color ramp to drive the factor of this. Okay, so we are going to plug the color information into this color ramp, and color ramp is going to convert it to black and white. Alright, then you can push in the black so much so that the parts that are white will show this particular information here. Okay, so let's connect this to the mix factor and connect this, preview this. Okay, after previewing this, let's preview it from this principal base div. So you now see that we have a feature labs plane, and we have this also clearly. Alright, so at default, Blender used the first UV map for this, but we can still make use of duplicate this UV map. We can still make use of that UV map one for this particular one. It's still one and the same thing. Okay, so to further make you understand this, let's go on to the third one. Alright, this is the third one, Elon Musk picture. Alright, so it's already stretching at this point. So to apply it very well, we create another UV map, make it image 3, and turn it on. Okay, so come over here and duplicate this and change it to image 3 and connect it to the vector. Alright, so we want this. Let's preview our model. We had this. Okay, we want Elon Musk picture to be at this point. So you need to click on it, come over here, change this image to this point, click on this particular face where you want the image to be, click on U and click on unwrap. Okay, then scale this and move this up on Y. We can rotate this at 180. So just using this for description, you can rotate this at 180. So to take away this other part from having that same texture, we need to invert the selection by clicking Ctrl I, click on U after inverting, and click on Unwrap, and it's going to invert the selection. So it's only this face that has the Elon Musk picture. And to clear this bleeding over here, you have to scale this texture at 0.01, okay, and move it away till where we have everything white. All right, so now we have 1, 2. In the mix shader we have these two images, so let's join this other one, the third image, together. So all we need to do is connect this mix shader to the color 1 and connect the Elon Musk texture to color 2 and preview this. This is what you are going to see. It will always come in blurry. To view the Elon Musk picture, you have to mix these two nodes together. Mix it here, connect it to the color 1, and then move Elon Musk picture to color 2. Then add a color ramp, connect the color of this mix to this, and then tune in the black to be more. Then connect the color output to the factor and preview the mix node. You're going to have the 3 of them clearly on the wall. So you have the 3 of them nicely painted on the wall. So the next part is just a repetition of that. Add another map, image 4, make it active, duplicate this, select image 4, preview this image, no fear. Alright, so for this no fear, you just need to go to edit mode. You want it over here. Change this to the no fear, click on U, unwrap, and move this up in Z axis, scale this in Y, and then rotate it 180 to flip the image. So invert the selection and unwrap this, then scale it at 0.01. So now you're done with unwrapping this particular face. What you now need to do is to mix it with others to show all of them together. So this is what you need to do. Just doing a bit of arrangement. Duplicate this mix shader over here, duplicate the mix shader, and connect this to color 1 and this to be color 2. So with this, so we need to use the color ramp. So come over here and just duplicate this, the color ramp over here, connect this particular one here. So it's just a matter of repetition. You're just basically using the previous mix information as the color ramp to drive the next mix color. All right, so we have this, and let's add one more. Okay, let's come over here, add another image 5, activate it, image 5. This is glory of the future, right? Duplicate this, connect the UV, change this to image 5, then change the picture to be this in the UV editor. Alright, so let's go to unwrap. Click on this particular face, click on U, unwrap, move this along X axis, rotate this 90 and move it along X axis. Then invert the selection, click on U, unwrap, scale 0.01. Alright, so we have that. So the next thing to do is to mix them together. So bring this to 2. And connect the color over here. Alright, and then bring this to 1. Then preview this. So now we have this wall filled with these paints. Alright. So connect the final parts to the principal BSDF. So we have this wall filled with these paints. We can actually add a plane. So we basically have a room filled with this, all from one shader editor. So if you don't understand how I actually use this shader editor, I have shader editor masterclass in my previous tutorial. So there will be a link in the description below and also at the top card over there. So this is just it. By using different textures and mixing them all on one 3D model, you need to create UV maps, you need to create the UV nodes also to reference the UV maps at the shader editor, and use your different textures alongside the color ramp and the mix shader to show all of them together. Alright guys, that's it for this tutorial. Actually have a nice time and see you on the next one.